Nityanandam. I'm very happy that we are starting the Ask the Avatar series after a very long break today. And today I'm very happy to announce the guest who is going to be sharing the stage with Swamiji. He is actually an inner awakening participant. The person who is going to be interviewing Swamiji in today's Ask the Avatar episode is Dr. Biplab Mishra. Please come up on stage. Dr. Biplab Mishra is a professor of surgery in the All India Institute of Medical Sciences, well known as AIIMS, New Delhi. Please. He has spent more than 25 years in AIIMS, having joined the institute as an MBBS student in the year 1991. He is an expert in trauma surgery and thoracic surgery, which is also called as the chest surgery. He is well known for one amazing surgery that he conducted in the year 2008, where a 22-year-old man was implanted with a 4 by 4 centimeter iron bar which had gone through his chest and abdomen, just missing the heart by a few centimeters. The successful management of the case became world famous for the innovative technique used in the operation, for not just the dramatic presentation. Just go to the next slide. You can actually see the patient. He got into a road accident where the driver actually slept and the rod completely pierced his body. It actually came through his body fully, and Dr. Biplab ji actually completely performed the surgery within 17 days. Within 17 days, the patient actually got discharged from the hospital, and after his discharge, right after 17 days after this incident happened, this is how the patient looked. Yes. He is now, this patient is now married and he has children as well. He is the Dr. Biplab Mishra is also the pioneer in the management of perforation of heart due to accidents in India, which he started in the year 2008. And there are two medical entities or terms that are named after him, namely the Mishra phenomena and the Mishra's sign. So it's with a great honor and pleasure I welcome Dr. Biplab Mishra ji onto the stage. And I'm sure all of us are excited for the next episode of Ask the Avatar. Nityanandam.
Yes.
Nityanandam Swamiji. First
Nityanandam.
of all, so first I would like to ask you a question. We had a very glorious Vedic culture and technology thousands of years back. We had amazing powers and amazing technology. And there were people also who used to practice all this, who used to have those powers. And even many of the powers which are negative and which are present also at present, they were probably not there at that time also. So what was it, what is it actually that led us to fall from that human to subhuman we are at present?
See, fundamentally, manifesting only powers and getting involved too much into powers and missing the state and the space of responsibility. If I have to give one line answer, all the downfall of very highly evolved civilization, one line answer: we forgot the responsibility is as important as manifestation of powers. One side in the power manifestation, in the glory, excitement, the responsibility to handle those powers were forgotten. So next generations, they were empowered with powers but not enough responsible space to handle those powers. Like a Ashwatthama. Drona will never do such an irresponsible job of invoking Brahmastra out of sheer revenge. But unfortunately, Drona has done a biggest, I don't know what word I should utter or I should not utter, but whatever is said and done, reality is reality. Drona, out of his too much of attachment towards his son Ashwatthama, empowered Ashwatthama with the power of Brahmastra before even he empowered him with the responsibility to handle Brahmastra. This side, Arjuna as Brahmastra, but fortunately as a person like Krishna who has a power and responsibility both. This side, Ashwatthama, has only power but not responsibility. All the damage, if you see the whole Mahabharata, I should say that Mahabharata was one of the biggest collapse of the higher civilization. Almost all the best people are dead. Almost all the best technologies gone. If you see the whole Mahabharata war, people empowered and responsible, people only empowered but not feeling responsible. What is the need for so much of powers being used just for vengeance? And some of the fundamental mistakes happened. The blind spots, not only Drona. If you look little that side, even Krishna, the kind of a responsibility he showed when it came to Arjuna, unfortunately his own son empowered so much with powers but did not become responsible. I don't have an answer for, but this is the reality. Somewhere we use the word Kali age to name that infamous blind spot of getting empowered but not feeling responsible with the powers. In my own life it happened, but fortunately immediately my gurus have appeared and they protected and empowered me with the responsibility. I should say the whole thing. The question which you are asking, whether why we lost the great Vaimanik Shastra, or why we lost the great Sanjeevani science, or why we lost the great Amritattva science, the Aushadha for nectar, Aushadha for immortality, or why we lost these great powerful weapons. You see, all the weapons are not only just destructive. See, the Arjuna used Varunastra to bring water for Bhishma. It's not that Varunastra is used only for destruction. It is used to bring water in the desert. Why we lost all these powers and astras and shastras and the great not only luxuries, tools, even the grandness of the civilization. I'll answer in one line. Too many powers were available to people who are not feeling that responsible. Ashwatthama phenomena. I'll name that as Ashwatthama phenomena because Ashwatthama and Krishna's son, these two are the worst examples of being pampered but not become responsible. Fortunately, Krishna did not give Brahmastra to his son, but surely the title Krishna's son he misused. He was not responsible even for that title. But here, Drona's son, not only the title, he even inherited all the powers of Drona. And people like him, they are responsible for the whole destruction. That is why again and again and again I insist on the state of Sadashiva, Nirvikalpa Samadhi first. From that operate responsibly, from that space let's manifest the powers. The whole science I am teaching, actually the whole new software I have developed, if somebody falls from the state or space, they will not manifest powers. Because I do not want one more Mahabharata or one more destruction. See, humanity cannot be inspired without being empowered by manifesting powers. There is a big chunk of dry Vedantis who don't even go into the side of the powers, but finally they end up only in depression. I have seen that group. So humanity cannot be inspired to move further unless you show them the results. We need to show them the results, and the same time we need to insist on the state and the space. So it is like a Shurasya Tara Vishita Nikecha, walking on the sharp sword and walking on the tight rope. You can neither move this side nor move that side. I think the mistake has happened, the blind spot has happened in this region where we were too much empowered and forgot the responsibilities. The Ashwatthama, see the mess he did. He was so angry, his friend was killed, but the foolish fellows did something which is against his own friend's wish. When he cut the junior Panchapandavas' heads and took it to Duryodhana, Duryodhana was not happy. He said, "What have you done? If you would have killed Panchapandavas, I would have been at least satisfied that I took revenge. But you have destroyed my Vamsa." Then Ashwatthama got angry even with Duryodhana. I did something to take revenge for your death and you are not happy about it. I will destroy this whole Vamsa. That is when he took the Brahmastra, sent it on Parikshittu. Then finally Krishna has to involve. He has to stop this whole thing. In one line I'll put it: power without responsibility is destruction. Responsibility without power, not even life begins. If there is only responsibility, no power, it will only be theory or dry Vedanta. Theories, theologies, people sit and go on be talking. If there is only power, no responsibility, it will be destruction. and somewhere we will have to balance power and responsibility both together. That is the only way we can revive the whole thing. Fortunately, the science is not completely out of planet Earth. It is still there. It is still there. The good news is still the whole science is available. The DNA is available. It can be retrieved. That's the good news. There is no bad news, but the responsibility is in our hands. If we retrieve, are we going to responsibly use it and reconstruct the Vedic civilization? I think we have to do it. We have no other choice. We have no other choice. We have only one home, planet Earth, and we can't afford to destroy it.
Thank you, Swamiji. My next question is regarding again Vedic technology. The present technology, which we can trace it very clearly to the Industrial Revolution, and you know, the technology you use, it actually destroys Earth. The Vedic technology, there was nothing like that, and it's, I suppose that was much advanced than the present technology. So, are you going to do anything on this aspect?
See, in Vedic technology, all the resources are from other planes and other places. We were importing. Surya comes and gives his powers. Then Indra comes and gives his Vajra. Varuna comes and gives his powers. It is all imported. But in this modern industrial revolution, in this technology, the resources have to be sucked from here and made into different shapes. And the human greed is not leaving even the source to be alive. This is my responsibility. I will have to find alternative resources, fuel, energy, and bioenergy. For all these three, I have to find alternative resources which does not belong to this planet, which belongs to other plane, where the resources are endless. See, the other plane resources, one good thing is, such large population does not exist in other planes. That's one. Second, such large demand does not exist there. So it is my responsibility. I have to find a solution. Let me be very clear. As on now, I don't have a solution. But I know for sure I will find a solution. Because people ask me, why did you not reveal this whole science of power manifestation in 2003 or 2002? I should tell them, I am very clear, I am putting the whole answer on record. It is not that in 2003, 2004 I do not know this science, but it takes its own time to get downloaded, settle down and open up and reach out to the people. In 2003 itself we have video records, we have video satsangs where I am speaking about this power manifestation, where I am even explaining the procedures. They will be given a Shaktipat in third eye and then they will start reading blindfolded. I am speaking. But it took at least 3-4 years for the whole science to settle down, body to adjust for that vibration, for that frequency, and for that to manifest, and that kind of a disciples to come and receive. The whole thing to become a demonstrable Sakshi Pramana. It took at least 3-4 years. Same way, now I know the Shastra Pramana and Apta Pramana, and even as Atma Pramana, that it is getting downloaded. Just today I was telling that the Aushadha for immortality is already become my Atma Pramana now, which was Shastra Pramana Apta Pramana. It is already now my Atma Pramana. Today only I said, let it be on record, at least for the sake of history. For this to become Sakshi Pramana, I am roughly looking at next at least 2 years. Next 2 years, we will have the same interview where we will be demonstrating with the clinical trials and medical trials the power of this Aushadha for immortality. We will be demonstrating reversing the aging or anti-aging and all that. At least I can say, as Atma Pramana, what becomes, for that to become Sakshi Pramana, the time taken is what I call that revelation period. Whatever technical terms we may use, we may give. The good news is, all these sciences are not dead. We just need to take the responsibility to receive them and manifest them and properly organize it to make it user friendly and reach it out to the humanity. I should say my whole mission is that only. My whole life is that only. And surely, at least within next 5 years, I will find an alternative resource. Fuel, energy and bioenergy. When I use the word bioenergy, the energy which is needed to run the body. There will be, actually there is, the external resource which can make the human body without any food or the water or any need from this plane. So the preliminary understanding which I received, I started sharing through the Nirahara Samyama, but now I know there is a clear resource available. Maybe in next few years, the whole science, I'll manifest it for the humanity, which will be very user friendly. See, even now, it's not that science is unknown, but I need to make it as user friendly. I need to make this as practicable, where people can practice in this Vatavarana, in this weather, in this atmosphere, in this lifestyle, and the transition is very smooth, not risky, and legal, socially acceptable. So all this mapping down takes a lot of time. Even these initiation methods, the initiation methods I am using are not exactly the initiation methods which Sadashiva uses in Tantra. Some of those initiation methods are today not socially acceptable, legally acceptable. So now, the same experience, I will have to map it to this modern day society, modern day human body, and modern day human mind, and modern day legal system, the whole thing. In 2003 and 4, when the science was revealed to me, if I have started manifesting as it is revealed, in next 10 days I would have had specimens manifesting powers. But that system was not socially, morally, or legally acceptable. The initiation methodologies, the context setting, all that. So mapping them to the today's society, that took 3-4 years. Again now, this Aushadha for immortality, is already ready. Today it is downloaded. It will take at least 2 years for me to map it to this Vatavarana, where I will have to do the clinical trials, where it should be completely out of risky, and where so many other things involved needed to be attended. This only takes time. This only takes time. I am already working on alternative resources for these three: fuel, energy and bioenergy.
Thank you, Swamiji. My next question is regarding surgery. I am a surgeon. And surgery, one of the most popular surgery is gallbladder removal for stones. Other surgeries involve removal of thyroid, spleen or thymus, which is present here. And as I went into spiritualism, I found that they have significance regarding spiritualism also, because they are important glands, they are important centers. So what my feeling was that removing them for non-malignant conditions, benign condition, is not right. What is your view on that?
One thing, body parts, how a person feels about himself, physical, body, physiology, psychology, how he feels about himself, and the quality of the consciousness reflects on his body. See, quality of consciousness itself cannot change, but the quality of consciousness reflecting on his body considerably changes with these organs being removed or added. It's like a mirror reflecting the light. If there is a crack in this mirror or a part of the mirror is removed, the reflection does get affected. Even though the source light does not get affected, the reflection does get affected. So I strongly feel only for the sake of saving the life, means reflection, any part can be removed or added. And I also wanted to put this on record. Hindu tradition accepts organ donation. Sanatana Hindu Dharma, scripturally we have enough references of organ donation. Organ donation out of love, without any other greed or fear motive, is accepted. It is allowed. And ethics for doctors, the Hindu ethics for doctors, not to remove any organ unless it is dangerous for life, consciousness, reflection. So I am of the same opinion you have.
Thank you, Swamiji. My next question is regarding modern medicine also, that is allopathy. And after practicing for more than 25 years in this field, I feel that there are gross deficiencies in our system. And I tried to study Ayurveda and other system also, and alternative medicines. And I found that my personal research tells me that they are much profounder. So the balance, the solution for me is, there is definitely some good parts about the modern medicine.
Yes.
So the solution for me is to integrate that modern medicine with the
Yes.
alternative medicine. What is your take on that? Because when I came here, I have found immense possibilities here. So
See, our traditional Ayurvedic Siddha and indigenous medical tradition, India has at least, I can say, 200 medical traditions. 200 medical traditions which has diagnosis and cure for larger number of diseases than allopathy. See, I am defining. India has at least 200 medical traditions. I am responsible for what I am uttering. India has 200 medical traditions which can diagnose and cure larger number of symptoms and diseases and disorders than the modern medicine. I am not saying completely dump the modern medicine. Surely modern medicine has done some amazing researches, discoveries and conclusions. All I am trying to say, all planes related to psychology, physiology and the innermost, the Vijnanamaya Kosha, those areas, regions, Ayurveda and Indian indigenous traditions are highly successful because the very visionaries had the vision about all the Panchakoshas. When they diagnose the root of all the Panchakoshas. Unfortunately, modern medicine works only on body. Most of their conclusions are from the dead bodies. In Ayurvedic and indigenous Indian traditions, the rules for diagnosis is done with the extraordinary third eye power of scanning a living person. So whole conclusions like what is disease, what happens if this medicine is given, what happens if that medicine is given, how it gets cured, after curing how the body responds, all this is recorded on a living person. Of course, in the modern day also many clinical trials are on living person. But many of the conclusions which are not on living persons are taken as a foundation for medicine. One thing, the ignorance in the fundamental system by not accepting the role of consciousness, treating the body only as a biomechanism, that is a fundamental blind spot. Second, unfortunately, fortunately in India, Vaidya was with Brahmanas who are not greedy or frightened. Unfortunately, the Vaidya in the modern day has gone into the hands of businessmen who has, other than curing, there is a vested interest. The human body, if this guy is my income source, if his disease is my income source, why will I cure him? I only want him in a manageable level, so he goes and works regularly and pays me. I call it medical tax. So unfortunately, because of these blind spots, lot of things, see, any practical practicing ethics, all practitioners, doctors can align it. But fundamental invention, ethical malpractices, nobody can stop. In the visionary level itself, I feel the ethics has gone down. That is one of the biggest blind spot modern day medicine is facing, suffering. I am telling you reality as it is. See, I am not blaming, complaining, and I am just, it is like a Atato Brahma Jignasat, let us inquire into the reality. If we sit and let us inquire into the reality, if we inquire into the reality as it is, this is real. Somewhere it is only Indian doctors who can do, and it is Indian doctors' responsibility of bringing the place of consciousness in the health sector, making the world understand we are conscious beings, not biomechanism. Diagnosis need to go beyond the body. The diagnosis needs to be done with all the 5 koshas as a complete diagnosis, and cure need to be done from the angle of consciousness. And these extraordinary possibilities and powers should be put under clinical trial, studied thoroughly, with the mode of internalizing them, not rejecting them. How much we can internalize with that mood. See, I don't want somebody who is completely saying yes, or I don't want somebody who is completely saying no. Somebody who is looking at how much we can internalize with that attitude if somebody studies this whole yogic science, Ayurveda and allopathy, brings the vision together, we will be doing a greatest service to humanity. I think only Indian doctors can do.
I'm ready to take help from you. Would you like to collaborate?
I think we should do something. We should do something. The world needs. World needs it. See, in US, a large number of doctors is from India. Indian doctors are well known. Even the American patients want to go to Indian doctors because of their ethics. And I think I can say that big chunk is Telugu doctors. No, see, the ethics is in their very being. Venkateshwara is responsible for the Americans getting ethical medicine. Because Venkateshwara is in the very system of Telugu people. When they become doctors, they always feel that they are committed to Venkateshwara. They are responsible for life, for ethics. I can say our beliefs about life and our belief about God, our belief about humanity, all that matters when it comes to ethics. But even they can only bring ethics in the practice level. What about the invention level? Only if we do something in India, the invention level ethics can be awakened or reawakened or rediscovered or whatever. From the level of Shushruta, the visionaries, great visionaries. And in India we had a great tradition called medical astrology or astrology medicine, where Varahamigira, the great masters, they will study even the nakshatra and grahas and time, and then based on that they will give medicines. Even all that was used for diagnosis. So somewhere all these understandings internalized medical system, which will be the greatest gift to the world from India. Let's hope and work on it.
Swamiji, my next query is regarding vaccinations. Recently, a woman in US was jailed for not vaccinating her child. I actually personally researched into this matter for my personal inquiry. I found that there is major problem with vaccinations. They vaccines contain toxins like aluminum, and many of the advantages of vaccination which people have said, just like polio, they have said we have eradicated polio, but people have proven that they were not because of vaccination, they were because of sanitization, good sanitization. So still majority, I think more than 95% of medical fraternity still believes that vaccination is good. For personally, I don't believe vaccination is good. Though I am a surgeon, I research it with limited resources, but I would like to know your opinion on that.
See, usually I never comment on any law of the land, and if something is law of the land, I try to keep myself away from commenting about it. I'll put it in one word. My pre-monastic brother is my disciple. He came and asked me, Swamiji, shall I vaccinate my 2 kids? I said no. Here ends my opinion. Who will listen to me? See, this is what they say. This is the medicine, this is the prescription doctors use for their own family. So if you ask me, what did I do for my own family? I did not allow the vaccination.
Thank you, Swamiji. Swami, this is Next question. Everything is energy and frequency. And there is nothing like matter. If you divide matter, ultimately it is energy. And we know that very well. And there are good frequencies, there are bad frequencies. Some bad frequencies still penetrated us all the time. Like Wi-Fi is one of the bad frequencies. Microwaves, bad frequencies. Even mobile phones, they are bad frequencies. And there are many other such things. Maybe they have been put deliberately by some people to affect the humanity. So, like Wi-Fi and other microwaves,
Yes.
what is your,
Yes.
what is the solution? What to actually handle this problem?
Yes. See, one thing, I want to tell you very clearly. I am absolutely clear. Wi-Fi, microwave, all these are bad frequency. But the good news I have is, they are very low negative frequency. Actually, if we do not know to raise our frequency, only they affect us. If we can work on our consciousness, even very simple level of 10-15 minutes everyday completion, the kind of a frequency boom happens in us cannot be disturbed even if you are 24 hours sitting in Wi-Fi and talking in cell phone, or you are working in a call center. All it takes is 21 minutes of everyday completion for a frequency boom. You see, I am not at all denying that Wi-Fi and microwave are all negative frequencies. I can give you even 5-6 more examples which are negative frequencies. I am not saying no. The good news is they are too small to be afraid. 21 minutes of, very simply I'll define, 21 minutes of not responding to your thought currents is more than enough for your consciousness to go up, where any of these frequencies do not touch you or disturb you physically, physiologically, mentally and psychologically. 21 minutes of not responding even to the powerful thought currents you are having. That comes only when you are sitting for completion. I'll use the word manana or dhyana or dharana, because originally in our Vedic tradition, the dharana or the word manana or dhyana or nididhyasana, they are all not negative. They are all completely raising your frequency. See, even yogaha chitta vritti nirodha is not, the word nirodha cannot be translated as cessation. It is actually raising above, raising your frequency above. That is supposed to be the dhyana or dharana or the nididhyasana and all that. So fundamentally, raising your frequency, even by spending 21 minutes a day. You do not need to be afraid at all about the Wi-Fi or the microwave or any other negative frequencies. See, what I mean by the word positive frequency, negative frequency, whatever is for life, positive frequency. Whatever is against life, negative frequency. For example, fundamentally I accept somarasa, but I don't accept this alcohol, wine, beer, brandy, whiskey and all that. People ask me, why both puts people high? Why are you accepting this? Why are you not accepting that? Somarasa does not damage your liver. Soma does not age you. It puts you in high, but it doesn't put you in delusion. It does not cause damages to your whole system. But the modern day alcohol, whiskey, beer, brandy and all that, they put people in high, but they do cause damage to the system. The Upanishad very clearly declares, Sadagum Samaga, desire to live hundreds of years. Anything which is supporting life is good. Anything which is disturbing the health is negative. Surely Wi-Fi, microwave, all these waves, I will only put it as negative because they are not supporting life. The good news is we can go above them because they are not that powerful if we decide to nullify them.
So are you going to get Somrasa in near future?
Very, very soon it will be decoded and made available to all of you.
Thank you, Swamiji, for answering all my
Thank you.
questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you,
Thank you, sir.
for wonderful time.
I thank Dr. Biplab Mishra, who beautifully graced the stage today. I'm sure all of us enjoyed the very entertaining and exciting interview. And of course, whenever Swamiji answers any questions, we actually don't know what's going to come out, but it's always something very, very exciting and entertaining and enlightening. So with that, we come to the end of the Ask the Avatar series for the day.
Thank you, Dr. Biplabji, and I really enjoyed. I enjoyed. Thank you for being here. My blessings to all of you. Let's all radiate with integrity, authenticity, responsibility, enriching, causing, living Shuddhadvaita Saivam, Sada Shivoham, the eternal bliss, Nityananda. Thank you. Be blissful.